Yeah, I asked Corey what he thought was my best side. He said he couldn't find one. So we'll just have to do without that. Yes, I am an industrial psychologist. I don't particularly like the term. It sounds like extra strength psychology. But actually what it means is that we work with businesses, and our goal is ultimately to always promote teamwork. And that's what we're going to talk about today. But first of all, before I do that, I'm going to talk about something I like to talk about, which is action movies. You know, those movies with the car chases and stuff blowing up and people getting shot and the action hero buddies killing all those bad people. I just love those movies. My wife hates them. We have kind of a running ledger that we have. She likes to go to movies that I and my friends call chick flicks. You know, there's 2-hour movies that are just incomprehensible. And then we kind of trade off. We're going to see chick flicks and action movies. I like action movies. And the thing I like about them is that it's stuff that I can't do, but there are people out there that can do it. And so, typical action movie, now you've all seen this. Typical action movie, a lot of people got shot, there's car chases. At the end, you know, there's the 2 hero buddies, and there's 3 bad guys. So the first bad guy is an easy out. The good guy takes this impossibly big pistol, shoots him, the bullet lifts him up off his feet, and he crashes through a plate glass window. That leaves 2 bad guys. So action hero number 2 chases that bad guy up fire escapes, down the streets, jumping over cars, and they end up in a cocktail lounge full of people. The bad guy is weaving and running through the crowd, but the action hero takes out his pistol, puts the silencer on there, and shoots him. Makes a noise like a champagne cork, kind of go pop. And then there's the 3rd bad guy, and this is the baddest of all the bad guys, right? So our first action hero is just getting beat up. He's getting hit with 2x4s, pistol whipped. He's laying on the ground. The bad guy gets in the car. He's going to drive off. But our hero lights a cigarette, gives that little grin that I can't give, and with his last bullet, he shoots the gas tank. The action hero throws the cigarette into the gas. It lights. It follows the car, and the car explodes like a small H-bomb. And that's the end of that. And I just love watching those shows, and I can't do those things. I can't do those things. But other than that, the main thing that bothers me about the realism other than that is that, at least in Dallas, if you go to a nightclub and shoot 3 or 4 people, somebody's going to come around and talk to you about it. So I don't know how these guys get away with it, but somewhere or another they do. Unfortunately for me and my fantasy life, I have some friends that are physicists. And I do not advise having friends that are physicists. You know, for one thing, you know, if you say, "Oh, this is so hard to take a rocket scientist," say, "I am a rocket scientist." Oh, shut up. But they take all the fun out of the action movies, because here's what they say about the movie that I just talked about. No bullet, no matter how fast, can pick up a 200-pound man at all, much less throw him through a plate glass window. They also say that a silencer on a gun doesn't really silence it. It just kind of reduces the noise. You fire a silenced pistol off next to somebody's ear in a nightclub, they're going to hear it. I'm wondering that nobody thought about him shooting the guy anyway, no matter how loud the gun was. And the best shot in the world cannot hit a moving target that's zigzagging and moving 30 feet away in dim light. And then everybody has seen the exploding car. A cigarette is not hot enough to ignite gasoline. And gasoline doesn't explode. You have to mix gasoline with air and atomize it in order to get it to explode. Otherwise, it just burns. So there is no car exploding in a small H-bomb. So the reason that I never saw in my life the things that you see in action movies are because they can't happen. All of those things violate all kinds of laws of physics. All right. So enough of action movies. Let me talk about teamwork, which is what we're here to talk about. And we all know how teamwork works. And we know because, I'll give you a typical case study. You're a business leader, and you're new to the company. You inherit the team, but it doesn't matter because everyone in their hearts genuinely want to be a team member and self-actualize around a vision. So all you do is get those people together, you share your vision, they become a self-managing team. And of course, profits soar. Because you're a one-minute manager, you got a total of 10 people at 2 levels that you interact with, but that's 10 minutes. So if they're really talkative, you're talking about 30 minutes. Work-life balance, 7.5 hours a day, you don't do anything, right? Because you got it all taken care of with this self-managing team. And we've all heard of this. We've all read about this in books and case studies. When it comes to teamwork and building teams and how teams operate, my partner and I are rocket scientists. And let me tell you what the problem with the thing that I just outlined was. The problem with the case study that I outlined is that it's impossible. This can't happen. There are laws of social interaction and personality that are just as immutable as the laws of physics. None of what I described ever happened. The reason you never saw it was because nobody ever saw it. Let me tell you why. I can't tell you how many books I've read that everybody at their core wants to be part of a team and have a vision that they follow. That's not true. That's just not true. A lot of people have no interest in that whatsoever. A lot of people don't want to be a part of any team. A lot of people are not at all inspired by any sort of a vision. And then there's the complexity of a team. If you have 3 people and you write out all the combinations of how they can interact, there's 4 different possible groupings. With 8 people, there are like 60 different relationships that can be formed. What's the likelihood that all 60 of those relationships are going to be effective? It's 0. That doesn't happen. If we want innovation and creativity in business, where does it come from? Innovation and creativity in business comes from disagreement. That's where new ideas come from. It's when we all get together and disagree. People in general don't like to disagree. So when we tell people that they need to be more confrontational, which we always do, what they think that means is you need to be more sarcastic, you need to yell more, you need to bully, you need to gossip. But to simply say, John, I do not agree with the idea that you're putting forward, is something that only about 1 in 3 executives are comfortable in doing. So you have something that is absolutely necessary that most people do not enjoy. With all due respect to the 1-minute manager concept, I've been doing this for over 30 years. I've never seen anybody that can manage people in 1 minute a day. So, and then finally there's the vision that's going to inspire everybody. Yes, everyone today has visions and values and etc. In how many cases do you think that really inspires anybody? Particularly if you're talking about the people who are actually doing the work. It doesn't happen very often. Now, I'm not really as cynical as I sound. We do have action heroes. We do. We have people who guard me, who are better than me. It's the men and women that we call police officers and soldiers. Those are the action heroes. They're not perfect. And they get hurt. And they don't always win. So the real action heroes are different than the action heroes that you see in the movies. And thank God we got them. Thank God we got them, right? And we do see good teams, and we do see effective leaders. They just don't operate the way that they do in books. It won't happen. So if you want to have a team, you have got to hire people who want to be part of a team. You've got to hire people that want to do what your team does. And that means you have to be very selective in hiring. You have to develop teamwork. It's not anything that comes naturally. People do not automatically work as a team. It's something that you have to develop. And you have to monitor conflict and make sure that it stays productive. And that's not always easy. My partner and I have worked with some firms where we felt like we had made a major stride forward when we finally talked the members of the executive team out of throwing things. And so that was a big win for us. You know, you went a whole hour and you didn't throw anything at anybody. That's great. Because in real life, you're looking for small wins. We have to work with people to make sure that that fine line between being assertive and direct and being too aggressive is something that people are cautious of. We had a client recently that called all of these people together. He got mad. He was talking to them. He was pointing his finger at them. He was pounding his fist. And he was asking my partner Robin afterwards, "How do you think it went?" And she said, "Not really well, Bill." And he said, "Do you think I was too direct?" And she said, "No, direct is good. You were too crazy." So there's a fine line between I want to get my point across and bullying and intimidating. And the whole idea of the 1-minute manager, I'm sorry, it doesn't happen. You're all in management roles, or I would imagine most of you are. You don't spend 1 minute a day managing anybody. Managing your people, even if you have a great team, is probably something that consumes a lot of your time and a lot of your energy, and that's just the way that is. And then the value statement. Should we have mission, vision, and values? Absolutely. Does it mean anything? Well, let me give you the acid test. I'll give you an example, a real life example of one of our clients who, in the last year or so, really put forward their values. CEO calls in one of his top executives, and he said, "Jim, we've got a value that says we're collaborative. You're not collaborative." And Jim says, "Yes, I am. I'm collaborative. It's a value I have." "Well, then why did you not return Mary's email for 3 days? How can you collaborate with someone that you won't communicate with?" And he said, "Are you talking about Mary, the accounts receivable clerk?" And he said, "Jim, here's another problem. One of our values is respect for people at all levels in the organization. Are you going to be disrespectful to her?" When your values become concrete enough that you can actually say, "You can't do that. You violated our values." We had one client who had a president of a subsidiary who was knocking it out of the park. He was achieving everything he was supposed to achieve. He got called in by the CEO. And the CEO said, Did you really publicly scold your admin in front of like 5 other people?" He said, "Well, yeah, I mean, she messed up. I didn't curse her. I didn't threaten her." And he said, but you talked roughly to her in front of all those people." And he said, "Yeah, I did." He said, "You're fired." "You can't fire me." He said, "Of course I can. You violated our values. We have a value that says we respect everyone in this organization. You're one of the top people. If you don't show that respect, what does it mean?" So when people say, "Do you think my mission and my vision and my values, do you think they're helping anything?" Are they real? Can you give me a concrete example of this is what it means? Can you give me a concrete example of what integrity means? Everybody's got integrity. But what does that mean? You can put that in concrete terms that says, this is what integrity means. It means, among other things, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So if I don't follow through, is that not an example of me violating the value? And we have clients that work at these things. They don't do any of them right. We had a talk my group I was with had a talk on servant leadership, and I'm big on servant leadership. One gentleman got up from a university, he talked about servant leadership and what a wonderful thing it was and how it should be implemented. I don't know if you've ever heard of TD Industries. That's a company that we've worked for from time to time. And Jack Lowe of TD Industries got up and said, we've been working with servant leadership for a long time and we don't have it right yet. We just keep making mistakes and messing up and wasting time. I guess we're going to eventually get the hang of it. That's the person everybody listened to. So, yeah, there are action heroes, and there are good leaders and there are good teams. It's just not easy when you do it in the real world. So, I'm done talking.